No, I don't know how that ended. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know what happened next. I don't understand. I felt this pressure. I felt this pressure. On my pubic bone. He said he was punching me. I just saw his arm. I could feel his arm moving, and it looked like he was punching me. But I remember looking at all the broken bottles, broken glass, and I remember just not wanting to move because I didn't know if it was broken. I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel it. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel anything. I didn't want it. I looked around and I saw so much broken glass that I remember retching. I remember the sound my voice was making. I remember I lost control of my bladder. Because I woke up the next day. I assume it was late morning. I could hear him downstairs. I could hear Marilyn Manson music, not in person. I could hear the music. Maybe he said it was Marilyn, or maybe I could recognize it. I don't remember, but I became aware of it. That's what I was hearing. It was blaring. It became clear, obvious to me when I walked downstairs. He was still up. He hadn't gone to sleep again.
Anything else you notice in that?
It's just so incredibly difficult to watch, very, very uncomfortable. But like towards the end of that segment, I was just thinking to myself that, yeah, come on, you can do it. You can get at least one tear out. I mean, and I watched it. I watched the whole thing today. I did nothing this afternoon but watched it, and I saw a tear once. I remember like one actual tear once when she had something to wipe off her face, but the rest of the time she was literally pretending, because I guess the jury are probably far enough so that they can't actually see in such detail. So she was constantly pretending to be wiping tears away.
Oh yeah, but the acting is just horrible. I was saying yesterday on my channel that at first when she started to testify, I was like, okay, she's all right. She's not coming across too bad here. But then it just seemed like as the day wore on, and then today it's just been excessive, but scrunching her face up but not being able to produce tears. She scrunched her face into so many contortions. Yeah, she's got the right accoutrements. Like she'll take this out and like fondle it for a while. She does a lot of stuff with this, but except for actually like catching tears, it seems like. And like one of the lawyers said that I watched today on Legal Bites, she is throwing a lot of stuff out there that Johnny Depp supposedly did to her, not just in this video talking about this supposed bottle incident, but also talking this afternoon about him throwing her into, in hurting her with glass, throwing her into things, punching her, like all kinds of serious abuse that should land someone in the hospital. And she, like the others, she doesn't have medical records indicating the abuse that she's talking about. So anyway,
but I just can't. I actually feel sorry for her.
It's tragic.
But it might just be this primal instinct that we all have, that when we see a woman pretending to be in distress, I mean, we all immediately, there's just a reflex.
Yeah, and that's power.
And I felt that, and I have felt that throughout her testimony, especially during the first day, like yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday, there were a couple of occasions when I was just drawn in, and then I was always distracted. Like whenever she was trying to force those emotions a bit too hard, that's when I was a bit distracted. But there were a couple of minutes here and there when she pulled me in enough to really notice those feelings of sympathy and compassion building up. I mean, it
Right.
is a real power that women have. Men, we don't react the same way to men. It takes a lot more for men to express, for us to react this way. And of course, I felt sorry for Johnny Depp as well.
Yeah.
But it's just a different form of compassion that we feel, I think.
Yeah, and that's very true, and I appreciate you saying that, because there are people who are critical of any expression of any kind of sympathy toward Amber Heard, and that's not the right attitude, and that's not what you're doing anyway. You're noting how it is such a natural and powerful instinct for us to feel that sympathy for a woman, even against our will. And that's the thing about female power. And I'm glad that you point this out a lot on your show. And I would just encourage, if people, my viewers who may not be familiar with your work, you do a lot of interesting stuff about these forms of female power that we don't recognize so obviously in society. And I think one of those forms of female power is this ability that women have to bypass the intellect often of listeners, and to have that sort of immediate effect on the emotions. And so I understand that, and that is a very powerful thing. And that's why Johnny Depp is up against a lot with this. And so, but the main thing I wanted to note is that Johnny Depp, through this, but it's got to be very painful to have to sit there for hours and hear these things said about you by someone who abused you, by someone who ripped your heart to shreds.
At one point when she kept bringing up his daughter, and actually she was talking about how she was looking after Lily Rose while they were on the yacht or something, and then you could tell he just said wow, or like whisper, you could read his lips. I mean, that must be very, very painful for
her. I was thinking
especially when she brings the kids into it.
That's such a good observation too, because I was thinking a similar thing.
So just a few minutes after this, she talks about how she woke up the next morning. She had taken some sleeping pills, fell asleep, woke up the next morning, and Johnny was still awake. He hadn't slept, and he was listening to Marilyn Manson. And then even the lawyer kind of repeated the name Marilyn Manson just to really hammer it in.
Like to do that.
And then Amber once again said, yes, so he was listening to Manson. So interesting. I mean, they perceive it as sort of a guilt by association weapon that they have. There's just one other thing that they can add to the list as proof that Johnny is such a horrible person if he's friends with another accused person who was like Satan himself. So, who's friends with someone like this? That's basically what we're getting.
And they like to call him Marilyn Manson, not Brian Warner, right? But and especially like when they were looking, at one point during the trial so far, Amber's side has brought up a text between Manson and Depp, and they'll even say, this Brian Warner, this is Marilyn Manson, right? Just so we're clear. But yeah, they clearly think that it's a winner for him. They clearly think it's a winner for Amber to have Depp associated with Manson, like you said, with his image and with his allegations against him.